Hello, welcome to Pi.
Did you forget the name already?
Oh, I'm Katey Segal. No,
No, the name of the
Forget
podcast.
the podcast is Pi.
Okay, just
What
check.
does it stand for?
People, influences, and experiments.
No, well, that would be interesting.
Experiences.
Experiences. And who are you?
I'm Kurt Sutter,
I am.
currently unemployed.
Oh gosh, let's not go there. Let's not start that.
What? No.
Because that's
we'll go there.
a lot of questions.
I'm excited.
You have problems with impulse control sometimes, I would say.
You think?
Yeah, that's where I live, baby.
I wouldn't have half the career and lost the other half if I did.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to get right into who we're chatting with today because I want to just tell the little bit of backstory in that, I don't know how many years ago it was, my kid was glued in front of her iPad watching a YouTube channel where dudes were doing wacky stuff with food and she was fascinated by it. And I watched it and I thought, oh, that's funny. They're interesting. And then I saw that they had like 2 and 3 million views like within a day. And I was like, all right, what the fuck are these guys doing? And I started watching because I was fascinated and truly became fans. And then through, just being bold and obnoxious, I imposed myself on them and we ended up doing something for Mayans. But I'm thrilled to have Rhett and Link with us today.
We're thrilled to be here. You guys are too cute. Come on now.
In our red room, in our house.
In our house.
it.
We are
I
here.
know. For those who don't, well, I can't imagine anybody doesn't know, but their show is Good
Mythical Morning. And they have like 13 channels
13
now.
channels on YouTube. I mean,
Yeah, is that where the number is now?
wow.
It
See,
sounds
that's
good. It sounds a little
successful, too.
unlucky, actually, but
Yep.
yeah, we
We
need
need
to
to add one or subtract one.
12. All right.
Not to me.
An even dozen.
Wow.
I'm so glad that we met
Me too.
in general.
Right,
I think that there's a whole story there, but yeah, because when you came on Good Mythical Morning, we don't have that many guests. I mean, it's fluctuated over the years.
Right.
We've done the show for like 11 years, 12 years now.
Right.
We're approaching 3,000 episodes, but we don't have guests on that often.
Right.
And we're kind of picky. And
Clearly you lowered your
this is
standards.
this is like a left field
Right.
thing where it was like, okay, Kurt's okay, yeah, we're more than familiar. We're
I
fans.
think one of the ways that we make a decision about whether we want somebody to come on is we're like, okay, hey, we get the creator of Sons of Anarchy is this is like legitimizing for our like
Hell yeah.
anybody who thinks that our little show doesn't matter, we're just eating food. It's just like, this guy wants to be on the show? Yes.
I don't know how this is gonna
Did you
work.
pitch them or did they pitch you?
No,
I think you pitched them.
No, I'm sure my publicist reached out and I said, I want to do this show because you have guests on once in a
You
while.
love
Yeah,
the
yeah.
show.
And she was like, Catherine knew of the show, my publicist at the time. And she was like, okay. We reached out. And I think your caveat was, well, he's got to bring like a pretty actress with him. So they ended up bringing Sarah on with me. But
That's not what we
That
said.
wasn't our caveat. Somebody on our team
To be
may have come
clear.
up with that.
yeah. To be clear, but no, it was very kind. It was fun.
But
it was fun.
behind the scenes, like when we met in our little green room,
Right.
I think we really appreciated your interest and about Esme's a fan,
Right.
but I think Kurt does seem to be a
Big
fan.
fan.
He's very fascinated.
Yeah.
And so we like it when people like us.
Well,
you
no,
know?
and here's
And we hit it off pretty quickly.
and here's the
You were
thing.
asking us some very detailed questions.
I was like, because you were getting
You're doing
you were
what
getting
you're
more views than any of my shows. So I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But this is what I want to talk a little bit about today as well is, yes, you guys do fascinating things, and you're constantly pushing the envelope, and I can see how hard you work to come up with ideas, to keep people fascinated, to keep viewers. But at the end of the day, I show up, and I think everybody shows up, whether they're conscious of it or not, is because the relationship that the two of you have. Like you feel like you're hanging out with two friends.
Right.
And that's the hook, right? Like, yes, you do weird stuff, but it's like the relationship that you two have, even when you're not talking about the relationship,
Right.
there's a sense of joy and like, and I know this for a fact, that there's a sense of like, I can't believe we get to fucking do this every day.
Yeah.
And a gratitude that is contagious.
Yeah, it
And
really is.
also like characters in a play or in a show, like I'm drawn to the characters and the relationship. And that was the fascinating hook for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's also that's something that we had to come to grips with, right? Because I think that when we started getting some traction on YouTube in the early days, it was for YouTube was a very different place. It was a place where you might make a viral video, but there weren't like influencers or creators that people kind of connected with in that way. And for years, we were very self-conscious about not wanting people to just watch because they wanted to know more about us or they wanted a connection with us. It was more like, here's this thing we've created, just like this thing that we've created.
Oh, right.
So it actually took years to sort of accept that like, oh no, people want to experience this real thing that we have. They want to be the third party in this friendship.
Well, don't you think entertainment is a lot about that? It's sort of,
I do.
I think people vicariously are, we like to watch connection because we all struggle with it. And we're all, we all want to be connected. So when you see people that are, there's, whether you are conscious of it or not, that's what we like,
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me about you guys. I know, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you met, where you come from? I mean, I know some, but probably some of the people who listen to our podcast don't know that.
We just celebrated 40 years of friendship.
Oh my God.
Because and the reason why we know that down to the day is because fans did research. Because the story that we've always told that is true is that we met on the first day of first grade. And
At Bowie's Creek Elementary School in Bowie's Creek, North Carolina.
Yep.
In Blues Creek?
Bowie's Creek.
Bowie's
Like a
Bowie's
person
Creek.
named Bowie.
John Bowie.
John Bowie. Okay. All right.
Named a creek after himself.
Right.
And so people
And we
actually
swam in
went
that creek a lot.
and looked at the like the Harnett County school records to find out, well, what was the first day of school? And it was September 3rd. Is that right? September 3rd? So it was early September.
Yeah.
Did you like each other right away? Or did you fight first?
No, we did. No, we connected.
First grade.
So we were, I was new, right? I had actually moved from California.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
I was born in Georgia, but we were out here in Thousand Oaks for a few years.
Huh.
And so I had moved to the South. My parents wanted to get back to the South because that's where they're from. And so,
And I was born and raised in Bowie's Creek.
In Bowie's Creek. Now, was it your dad that had you moving? I mean,
yeah.
his job.
He was a law professor. So he was
I
at
gotcha.
Pepperdine for like 81 to 84 or whatever.
Right.
So Bowie's Creek is a very interesting town because there is a private university there, Campbell University, that has a law school. So it's like small town, just one blinking caution light.
Right. And a law school.
And a law school.
Yeah.
And a pharmacy school too. So it's like,
Yeah.
you get this
A little
weird
school.
intersection of like tobacco farmers
And academia.
and academia
Yeah,
in the
it's an
middle
interesting
of
spot.
Wow.
nowhere.
So was it a relatively small school that you went to, or was it like a, like now we've got kids that have gone through schools
That's
in
where your
LA.
dad came to teach.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the college was like 1,000 students at the
Right.
time, I think.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so Bowie's Creek Elementary, I mean, there was probably like 2 classes for each grade or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just happened to be put into the same first grade class, Miss Locklear.
And it went, Miss Locklear held us in from recess for writing nasty words on our desks.
The two of you together?
Yeah.
You both were doing that?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
In
here's the thing.
tandem or just like separately and then, oh, by the way,
Well, it's a little fuzzy, right? It was a long time ago.
It has become a bit of a creation myth in that there are historical elements, but the story as it's been told has become a bit more efficient.
Right.
But
It's for branding purposes. It's gotten very.
the thing that I remember is that, I mean, we were actually, it's funny how there's been a bit of a role reversal in terms of the way that we, as kids and adults, like as a kid, I wanted to immediately connect with as many people as possible. I invited myself over to all kinds of kids' houses to spend the night.
bold.
Like in kindergarten, first grade, I would meet a kid and then I'd be like, well, when am I going to pop the question? Which is, can I spend the night at your house? And then I would do it. And then
show up.
And the main thing that I was interested in is what they had in the refrigerator. Not just because I like to eat, because I just had this fascination with what do they have in their fridge? And I would go to the fridge and open it, look at the freezer. I was a weird kid. So I did the same thing with him.
When he invited himself for a sleepover at my house, well, I thought this was special.
Yeah,
right.
You know,
never had anybody.
I had never gone. I would never go to anybody. I didn't know how to go about
He
it.
had never left his house.
Well,
for
new kid from California,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, he kind of,
I do that now, but with people's medicine cabinets.
no, that's an old story. We don't do that anymore.
I can learn about
But
this person.
that's so
That's
you basically say, hey, I'm spending the night,
Yeah.
and then
I was like, oh,
and then you don't have them alone in your kitchen.
we must be best friends. Yeah, you can sleep in my fridge.
But
Wow.
I'd make a quick evaluation of a kid,
Based on
and
their refrigerator?
well,
No,
that was the family.
That was a fact. Before that, yeah.
But for the kid, it was always this was pretty subconscious, but it was do we have a similar sense of humor? Are we laughing at the same things? And we made each other laugh immediately.
Yeah.
So I think that was what really drew us together, is
First
that
grade.
our embracing of silliness was, which is pretty common in first
Yeah,
grade, but
right.
we were on the same silly frequency.
Yeah.
Were you guys being raised similarly? In other words, I had friends, and I come from Los Angeles, and I would have friends, but their families would be so different than my family that was always fascinating. That was wow,
you were
nobody's yelling over here.
You were show
Crazy.
folk.
Yeah, we were show folk. So we
Show
were
folk.
like, whoa.
I was raised vicariously
Oh, meaning?
by Rhett's family. Now, but not in a direct way, not in a Owen Wilson in the Royal Tenenbaums, nor in a so my mom,
documentation.
I had a single mom. From let's see, so I had a stepdad until third grade, but then after that, it was just me and mom, and she was, she's the sweetest woman, but she didn't have a strong hand.
Right.
And so whenever we would do something, for example, whenever we would decide to go on top of the administrative building of the university, which was covered in rocks, one of those flat roofs, and we would just start throwing the rocks off at passing traffic.
Oh, yeah,
Little
I get it.
Little rock.
It's okay.
And
Rocks.
they're very small.
Not gonna
And,
hurt anybody. Gonna hurt some cars though.
Someone saw us and told us to get down, but we didn't know that it would get back to your dad.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But then when
The school your dad was teaching at.
yes,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's always helpful.
Right.
right, it didn't take long.
Well, I just remember getting home that day, and he was like, "You got anything you want to tell me?" It's oh shit.
And were you with him?
No,
No, I was by
No.
myself.
Oh, you
I was
were
back at my house now with my
Yeah.
mom. Who
Yeah.
saying nothing.
was
Mom
like,
was-
what do you want for dinner, honey? She's totally in the blind. So then you get into it at your house, and then my mom gets a phone call,
I see.
and then my sweet mom was like, well, what are y'all gonna do for rent? It's
Well, my
like,
dad
okay.
had probably already done it, which is whoop my ass.
My mom never spanked
If
me.
you can't tell, he's never been spanked.
Actually, I
find
get that. I do get that.
Yeah.
But when you also got grounded, I got grounded the same amount of time.
Oh, I see.
Oh, so she would find out
she
what
would
was
find
happening
out
to
what happened
him,
to you.
Yeah.
and
She would
then
consult my
impose the
parents.
same
Right.
things. I got you.
Who has brothers or sisters? Does anybody have
I
brothers?
got one older brother.
One older brother.
Only
and you,
child.
Only child. Oh,
I know you can tell.
yeah, right.
that's so. That's interesting.
wow.
Wow.
So yeah, there was. It's the story throughout pretty much our entire lives that there was this parallel path of. Yeah, like even being raised by, okay, your parents had like very established patterns, values.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went to the same church growing up. We were involved in the same youth group. But I think a lot of the structure and values came from your family, really to me, and then sometimes to my mom.
Right. Oh, that's
in that way.
interesting.
It was an interesting dynamic, but
Was
it
your
was fine.
That's
so
sweet.
your household, Rhett, was then had the structure
Yeah.
that his sort of didn't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
What was in his refrigerator?
Well,
it was a little.
Enough to keep you coming back.
you know, the thing that was interesting about Link's house wasn't just the fridge; it was the pantry.
Yep.
It was a pudding family. You know,
Oh,
I didn't know.
you know, a pudding family.
Yeah.
An individually packaged.
It was a
oh,
family.
the little one. The little cups.
Individual cups of pudding, and also is a
Applesauce.
strong little Debbie.
Oh,
okay.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's worth
Yeah.
coming back.
Did you have like my we in raising our children, we don't have a lot of like junk food in
Right.
our house. And
You're an
you know,
ingredient household.
we're kind of well,
You
we
mean
don't have
so-
it around because we're so addicted to sugar that both of us would just eat
Yeah.
it all. So we don't have too much of it around. But was your I guess my question is, did you have a lot of that kind of processed food, you know, which
yeah.
would make it like I used to go to my best friend's house. My parents didn't have a lot of junk food either. And I was just like, oh my God,
Which one is that?
there's Oreos and there's like, you know,
Which,
Now-
which
potato
friend was
chip.
that?
Debbie
Yeah.
Gaster.
Debbie
Yes,
Gaster.
I used to go to Debbie Gaster.
Yeah, our house. It was funny because we had plenty of processed food.
Oh,
But
yeah.
my mom had.
How do you not at that time?
Oh
Right,
yeah, it was just that was it.
Yeah.
She drew interesting lines. Like we wouldn't have really sugary cereal. Like we couldn't have tricks.
Oh, right.
But you would have
But we have Cheese Whiz.
cheese whiz.
Right.
You know.
Lots of that.
Understand. Yes.
Well, it's
Velveeta.
protein.
Right.
And Bacos. Like we didn't have Bacos in my house.
Food.
Yeah, and I'm talking about those like the fake bacon
Oh,
chips
oh,
in the
that's-
shaker.
Oh, yeah.
I would go to Red's house because
Eat those
I
straight.
did eventually get up the nerve to spend the night at his house. And I'll open a cabinet and I'll be Bacos, and I'm just, what is this? Is the most amazing thing. And when I would take it down, there'd be another one behind.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you have boys.
Yeah.
It's like it was like a
You back
convenience
off.
store.
Had it like it was definitely like a grocery store. Like you finished something and then there was one behind it.
We didn't have three of anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was ready.
And now, so this friendship then just obviously in the same school.
Yeah. Do you go to one school for all? There's a middle school. Is there
No
all
middle
that?
school. We went to Buies Creek
Eighth-
Elementary
all the way
through
to
8th grade.
That's what
I
I had
see.
too in back east. Yeah.
Yeah,
One-
it's that
and-
small. We were the last ever 8th grade class at Buies Creek
That's
Elementary.
right. That's right.
They did build a middle school after that.
Okay, I have a good elementary school question. Did you like the same girls?
Oh God.
Was there like
We-
rivalry about?
We had the same first girlfriend and the same first kiss.
Different girl.
Two different girls, but the same for both of us.
And all of it was
You mean
a-
at the same time? Wait,
not at
I'm
the same
following.
time.
Not at the same time.
Wait a minute, the same girl?
Yes.
So our first girlfriend
Right.
was
Our first
Yeah,
girl.
was Leslie, and I was
You were
first, right?
first?
You were first.
In 6th grade,
6th grade, and I heard about it.
and then you dated her in 7th grade,
Yep.
and
Wow,
then
Leslie got around.
And
then Amber.
Well, it was a small school.
7th grade was a big year for
Everybody got around. It was just like you just shuffle.
because you kissed Amber in 7th grade,
Yep.
and then I kissed Amber in 8th grade.
Yep. And you were there for both of those, I believe.
I was there for mine. For
You
sure.
were there for the kiss?
Where
Did he
you kiss
kiss her?
No, you kissed her at the in Lillington at that party.
The
I didn't go to
Ruatan
the
building.
Ruatan building. I didn't go to that.
Oh, yeah, you
I
wanted
just heard about it. Michael Juby told me.
I know nobody from growing up, and I grew up here, and so
Right.
you would think I would. So this is fascinating to me that you guys went through all these phases of life and remained friends. And, you know, I mean, I guess maybe girls aren't that, like, if my friend in elementary school or high school or whatever kissed the same boy, I'd be pissed.
Yeah,
would
I
just
think
not
it was
be
a
happening.
function. It was a function of the friendship, but it was also a function of the size of our world.
Yeah, how could
Right.
it's sort of hard not to.
Yeah, because I could mention a number of our other friends who might have the same story
Right.
with the same girls. You know.
Yeah.
So the friendship continues throughout the what we called elementary school, which was
Yeah.
first through eighth, and then you go to high school.
Yeah.
Now, is there just one high school
Oh, yeah.
in Bowie's Creek?
No, so high school was a combination of a few other towns.
Okay.
So we go from
you
a small-
expand.
to a
Yeah.
small- about 1,000 kids at our high school. So pretty
That's
sizable
yeah.
high school.
This was a big moment when you went to ninth grade.
I see.
And yeah, because the kids from Lillington and Angier
got
and
you.
Lafayette were also there. And like, you know, Rhett had played basketball against these people. So it's like, okay, I remember that
And
cheerleader.
you have kept score for
I would
girls
and I
playing
kept
basketball.
score. That's right.
All the
And were you
Thank you
as
for saying
friendly?
that.
Were you as friendly as you were in elementary by like inviting yourself over to your high school friends?
How did that
How did that go down?
go over
How
that
were you
school?
by that time? Were you super
I
cool
think I had
or
pretty much settled in by high school. I wasn't quite as forward.
You were very fixated on getting a girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
So you were, I think he channeled his passion from refrigerators to
to girls?
girls.
And boy, we had a good start too. So let me tell you about this. We get there, and I had been building it up all summer long. I'm
Right.
like, listen, the women from Lillington, Angier, Lafayette, it's going to be another level. You have no idea.
I love that you're pimping it out.
Yeah. And we get there,
And this wasn't a statement. This was a constant conversation that we were having.
and okay, so there's there's two girls. They were friends, Jamie and Tabitha, and they were sophomores. And this is back in the day when like
Uh-huh.
a girl who was a sophomore who was hot was probably dating a senior, right? That's just the way it worked.
Right.
Right.
I don't remember how we did this, but somehow I talked one of them, Jamie, into going out on a date with me. And then I kind of somehow worked it in where you would go on a date with Tabitha as well. And so my dad,
Well, because I heard that we had heard that Tabitha liked me, but I didn't know what to do about it.
right. And so we just kind of worked
So you
something
did a
out.
double date.
So Rhett worked it out.
Yeah. Of course, we're freshmen. We can't drive.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay,
right. Right. Of
that's right.
course. Right.
But we talked my mom and dad into taking us to the Twin Plaza movie theater in Dunn, which is like 10 minutes down the road, to see Home Alone.
Yeah.
2.
Two.
And we're in a Dodge Dynasty. All four of us, me and Link and Jamie and Tabitha, all in the back seat together on this date.
With no seatbelts,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh, no.
No.
And I just remember as we're coming back home, no one's talking, and it's a little bit awkward. And then we were on Highway 421 that connects Dunn and Bowie's Creek, and the talk of the town was that they were going to take this 2-lane road and make it a 4-lane road. So this is a classic line in our friendship: is Link breaking the silence by saying, "Sure will be nice when they make this road 4 lanes." And then my dad, no one says anything, and my dad laughs to himself, and he's like, "Sure will, Link. Sure will."
You're gonna be sweet. So
That's so
But
funny.
it was like right out of a cannon. We're dating the hot girls, the hot sophomore girls for the first couple of months of high school. I
Well,
thought I was going to
I
have
think
an
Rhett
incredible
teed
time.
it up Rhett sounds like the
Yeah,
the
but
Tia.
clearly he was a conversationalist.
Yes, he was.
He teed it up. I turned it down.
He did. That's
I could
exactly
not-
right.
I love your dad. I love your dad. Just like, way to go, way to go, killer. Way to nail it down.
I could not keep a girlfriend. I could not keep a girlfriend because I was just too nervous about all of it.
Oh.
And I was not. I mean, it turned out okay.
Right. I know.
But then it became, there was this dynamic that we were like so much two peas in a pod in high school that the rumors were, okay, they're gay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that
but
was
how-
really hard to take when that's the last thing you want anybody to believe about you because of what you believe about being gay.
right.
Well,
At that
plus,
time.
What the
exactly,
community
this is
thought.
What the
this is-
community thinks.
Well, also, this is
Sadly.
your evangelical period, correct?
Oh, yeah, we were in it for real.
So I don't know, we can talk some about that, but so having people say that about you guys must have been blasphemous. Is that correct? Was
Yeah.
that
Yes.
kind of not
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
really not good.
Yeah.
And I think in retrospect, it could have been really damaging, but in a lot of ways, I just think we, I
Did
I
you go
still
along
think-
with it?
I felt we just kind of went along
We
with
just
it.
embraced it.
I think we leaned into our friendship as like, well, it's not like we're not going to be friends because people
yeah.
think that we're close, but
right.
and honestly, it still happens on the internet.
Oh, I have it
All right.
more now.
When you have a connection,
Yeah.
No way.
people just want
I think people can't
want to make
really.
this, they just want to connect these dots in like this.
Well, I think the only way they
sensual
can,
way.
they can explain it is what we have is unusual. Like to
I
be
agree.
best friends since first grade
Yeah.
I agree.
to and be working together.
Yeah.
At this point, like it's super unusual. So I think people are just like, well, the only way that can happen is if you're in love with each other.
No, in fact, I would say
never-
if that was the case, there's no way it is.
Still be together.
You guys see?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's I would yes,
my God.
exactly. I would think the same. It's hard to keep those relationships together.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting that people kind of throw that. I would never have gone there at all.
No.
Especially since on your show you talk about your wives and kids and
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
I
I
just
will
think it's a
say-
result of us being closer than all of our other friends. But then there was a larger. I mean, we had a next concentric circle of friends that were still pretty tight.
Right.
And it was, we're still in touch or like pseudo Facebook in touch through our wives' Facebook accounts with our
Other friends,
some high
right.
school friends. So
Right.
it's like we had a tight group that went through everything, went through all of it together, and it was
sound
much
like
more good than
brothers
bad.
to me. It sounds
Yeah, yeah,
like
it's very
brothers. I
much
mean,
like brothers.
the
Yeah.
fact
Very
that
much.
you're an only child
Right.
and you have you're a single mom and he's you sound like brothers to me.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you fight like brothers sometimes.
Yeah.
too.
Exactly. That's our dynamic much more.
It's interesting because when I think of you guys, and I just think, I know of your work ethic and also your work philosophy, and you have one of the most that I can see, one of the most open and inclusive work atmospheres I've ever seen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to hear you present that initial sense of like, oh, what do we do with this information? And then your journey to where you are now and the philosophy that you embrace and live by is pretty remarkable as well. Meaning that's a journey most people don't want to experience or have, or it's
Well, if you're talking about
people don't want to look at themselves in relationship to other people sometimes, and that's what because I didn't know of your journey through some of that struggle with faith.
Mm-hmm.
That came later after I had hung out with you guys and I saw the environment you had created that is wholly, forgive the word, but woke, right? And then so to know where to find that out afterwards
Yeah.
and have to like reverse engineer that thought pattern is pretty wild.
Yeah, we've had quite an education. I mean, to have a company and a studio. I mean, right now, I mean, just to give context, we have over 100 people working for us. And yeah, I mean, it happened very gradually, but to your point, you find ourselves in a place where we're not just creating content, but we're creating a company, we're creating a culture, and we're bringing people along for the ride.
I think of service.
And we had to, I mean, there's a lot of education, and we're still being educated.
No, I hear you.
In terms of like,
you have to be.
well, how do we build something that is sustainable and good, and that's rewarding for our team. You know, they have a lot of expectations and opinions, and you know, they're the vast majority of them are a lot younger than us. They're of a different generation.
Right.
So yeah, all of these things, I mean, we kind of had to soak a lot up and then apply it because, you know, we couldn't have anticipated how difficult and precarious it could be to run a company. And there's still times that I'm like, is this really what we want to do? I mean, this isn't what we set out to do.
Yeah, but
This part of it.
I think it speaks to sort of the way you're brought up. I mean, I think the fact that you can do what you're doing and create what you've created speaks something about where we come from, that you can believe that those kinds of things can happen in whatever form it takes.
Right.
So that to me is like, I mean, and I'd like to know a little bit more about the church situation in that you were very involved, which that to me is very communal. That is a communal environment.
Yeah, I think there's a
and
lot
it sounds
to that.
like you brought that communal environment
I think we did. So I mean,
to your work.
Oh, yeah.
So as a sort of a Cliff Notes version of the like, how do we get from there to here? Yes, we were steeped in evangelical culture to the point, and we were, you know, to the point where we would look down on other people in our community who called themselves Christians and basically be like, well, you're not really Christians. Like, you don't really know Jesus in the way that we do. And we leaned into that to the point of getting really involved with the campus ministry when we were in college, then going and actually working for that college campus ministry for a couple of years after college. So doing it full time. And like, in specifically, the two of us would go around and through these comedy shows that we had created, we would train other Christian students how to talk to non-Christian people about Jesus. Like, that's how in it we were, right?
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that conversation. I don't even, wow, that's deep.
And so, but then starting in, you know, in my 20s really, and then it sort of like really just accelerated in my early 30s, lots of doubts, right? I was always a reader, and I was always very interested in the intersection of faith and science. And, you know, I'd come from a place where I believed that, you know, evolution was a lie, didn't really happen, and we were a special creation and all this stuff. And long story short, the sort of foundations of what I believed about the Bible, and going from it being this perfect revelation of God to getting to a place where I saw it as just the thoughts of men trying to figure out why the hell we're here and what do we do with it. And that shift was very slow and very intentional. And also because so much of my life was tied up into this Christian identity and worldview and my family and my marriage and all these things, to have those blocks kind of just pulled out from underneath me over time. Like, your foundation is literally removed and replaced, right?
Right.
Were you on the same page, the two of you, at this point?
So
Kind of?
I was sort of I was experiencing this stuff on my own, and then I would be like sharing it with Jessie, my wife, and then sharing it with Link. And they were both having their own kind of reactions to it. Jessie thought that, oh shit, I mean, when I came home one day and told her that I thought that evolution was real, it's like, I've read enough at this point. I think it actually happened. She just started crying. Like, just to give you an idea.
Right.
And then I would talk to you about it.
And internally, I'd be like, keep cool, don't panic. it's just a phase. I think there was some of that.
Interesting.
But, I mean, you know, the pattern in our friendship is that, like, he's got all these ideas and he's got all these things that he tackles, and I'm the sounding board. And I kind of enjoy that, you know. So I think it was another version of that there was a lot more at stake.
Mm-hmm.
So it was scarier, but I just did what I always do, which is just try. I was going to say be curious, but it was more like just write it out, and like you don't shut down.
Just listen.
Right. Just listen. Be teachable.
Right.
Yeah, and and then eventually I just came around. I think for me it was less of I know that it was less of an exercise up here, like a cerebral exercise, and it was more of my experience. Like a lot of things, I was growing more disillusioned with the mismatch between my experience in having a personal relationship with God through Jesus and what a lot of other people described it as. It was not as real or dynamic. It was a lot of struggle, and it was a lot of guilt and shame for me.
Right.
And as opposed to it being rewarding and vibrant, like I was seeing that I observed in other people. So I started to get disillusioned there, and that was happening pretty much at the same time.
Got it.
So I was moving away on a different track, but so we were kind of in like our methodology was different,
Right.
but we were still headed in the same direction.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
And I think a lot of the
Yes, it does. It sounds like God of your own understanding, just a little bit more of that, leaning in that direction more than.
and I do think you were influenced by the idea that you may have not delved into it so deeply directly that I did, but like we all kind of believed that we were right. Right, like when you're in that particular worldview, and I guess everyone believes that they're right to a certain extent, but like the stakes of believing that you're right when you're a Christian, an evangelical Christian, it's like if I'm not right, like I can't be uncertain about all this stuff. It's like I got to be right about this, but you believe that it's true. Like you do believe, like the Bible does reflect what happened in history, or Jesus did actually rise from the dead. Like that is important that happened, and you're sure about that. And when I started saying that, hey man, I think these are just beliefs. I don't actually think that these things happen.
Just some cool dudes.
Well,
Right. And so I think that
parables and metaphors.
Right. And so it's like something happened, but I don't know if we can be sure about what happened. So I think that when that foundation goes away, then you are kind of left with a place where you can begin to emotionally process things because you're not tied to this having to be right. But to get back to where you were going with, it is that experience and coming up in that community, and also like going so far as to being like on staff with Campus Crusade and like leading Bible studies and leading conferences and like organizing people.
Yeah.
Like that, that skill set.
Yep.
We use that every day.
I was going to say, that's how you know that's what you're, yes.
Yeah.
So that's super beneficial. I mean, it was
and kind of knowing what the congregation
needs.
What are the needs? What's the vibe? Where are we headed? How are people going to respond? You know, it was. I mean, we've always been performers at heart. We weren't faking what we were doing, but
there was a cell. There's a cell.
There's a cell.
Yeah.
And you got to work in the context of that community. So yeah, when we started building this entertainment-based community over here, thanks to the internet, we just reapplied
totally. Well,
so much of what we knew.
Yes, it's the concept. It's like in a marriage. You know how they say there's you, and then there's the marriage. So we're going to make choices based on what's right for the whole. Right for the family, right for the marriage. That means that I'm going to compromise what I want a little bit, and so are you, because that doesn't. So that kind of thinking to me is, I guess, church kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
but here's the thing, too, though, that, and just not to be heady or the spiritual hookup for me is, to take a step back at the big picture here, and and look at that experience in terms of your movement through that faith to a certain awareness, to an understanding, and where it took you and the skill set you learned. I mean, you could step back and also look at that as being divine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Meaning that was your, whatever your higher entity had, like, that was your path through it to be able to do and show up for what you do now, which I believe is, a form of absolutely of love and service, right?
Right.
And so there is
There's a
through
divinity to
through
it.
that struggle, there's a real, divinity to
I mean,
it.
we come from that place. We really come from a place of, something greater than us. We just don't exactly know. Everybody's got their own definition of what that means. And as long as we know that we're not it, you know what I mean? As long as I know I'm not it, there's something else going. That's really all that matters. I don't really need to have it definitively explained.
Yep.
So I think everything that I agree with what you said. It sounds like sort of just a divine alignment.
Almost a feeling of destiny.
Yeah,
I think that is something that, and whether it's true or not, it feels like you can't help but look at your life and feel as if it was a path.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yes.
so I do believe that.
right.
And so I've never lost that sense that, like, each of those steps was really, really necessary and important.
And isn't it wonderful that it's mysterious?
Oh, yeah.
That there isn't like, oh, here's the book that says this is going to happen and that's going to happen and this is why that. I mean, I find it really fascinating that I don't know what the fuck's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Unless I'm terrified. I mean, sometimes it makes me scared that I don't know. But there is something really wonderful and life affirming by being curious about what's going to happen next.
20 years ago, if you had told me that, you would have scared the shit out of me.
I would have.
The certainty is actually, it's one of the great sort of pacifying things about religion, and especially a certain type of sort of conservative Christianity, is that, I mean, I remember specifically in college, like lying in bed and thinking to myself, it's pretty remarkable that I believe all the right stuff. I was like, think about it. Like, not only am I in the right religion, but I'm in the right kind of the right religion. Like, I was literally had the hubris to sit there and think about how I was right in all these ways. And then I was very thankful. I was like, God, thank you for giving me all this truth.
All the rightness.
All the righteousness and the rightness,
Right.
And kind of a blueprint.
And so when you feel that way, and it is very comforting, it's very affirming, and then it's like a drug. That certainty is like a drug. And when it's taken away, you think that you can't live without it. But then you get beyond it and you're like, oh, this is much sweeter than the certainty.
Yeah.
The mystery is much better than the certainty.
Mystery is much. I mean, and doesn't it all just come from fear of death? I mean, that's the crux. It's
Right.
like so if you can find a place where okay, I'm everything is for my highest good, even all that, you know what I mean? Then I think without having to really define it, I think it's wonderful.
And this is going to sound like complete judgment. I don't mean it to sound like that, but because I had
We can take judgment.
No, of you, but because my experience of knowing you and then finding out somewhat about your past, like you, and maybe it's just my perception, but there is a perception I have that is maybe inaccurate, that I always find that rigidity of faith, that underneath it there is a level of fear and anger. And the two of you, there is none of that. Meaning when I would watch the two of you, like there was such joy, and there was and so the experience of what you what you've gone through and how you live, but also the level of unconscious probably gratitude that you live in, I find difficult to suss out or extract from people that may have stayed in the circumstances that you were in. Do you know what I mean? So that's the judgment I mean. So I think it's why it was so surprising to me on a level that maybe I wasn't aware of until I started peeling away layers and going, oh yeah, these guys are actually love what they're doing, and
and you're pretty fearless.
And fearless.
Well,
yeah.
I thank you for saying that. I really do think that the power of friendship, as cheesy as it sounds, is something that gave us a sense of security that we didn't need the security that our faith gave us all those years. I think that having each other, and certainly, with Jesse and with Christy, kind of going through the process together, like the two of us, the two of them, the two of us, and then the four of us, that's a lot of support. And that's a lot of security that a lot of people don't have when they're having an existential crisis or their faith is being disrupted or degrading or deconstructing, whatever word you want to use. So I do think that was a huge factor. Also moving, we moved out here to LA. People like to say that, people who knew us more, who identified with our previous beliefs and identified with us through that. There's still some of those people that are vocal, even now, online.
Oh, really?
That are fans of ours.
Oh, good.
Or sometimes you can't tell because they will just shit on LA.
Oh, this is the reason
and
why
our
it happened.
motive.
I see.
But being able to move out here and have to depend on each other so intently, and it was when our spiritual journey was really coming to a big turning point. That was happening for years before we left. It was happening, but moving turned us inward to our little group, gave us, and there was a different type of security. I'm just saying all that worked in our favor.
Or so you're right. Some people don't have.
Yeah, some people are very much alone.
Oh yeah. And so many partnerships are broken
because of it.
Over the these are the deepest held beliefs that
look
you
at the country we're in right now.
Oh my God.
I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. So we are I mean, just talking about just the gratitude that we've made it to where we are as friends. Like we've made it here with our wives. And it was not easy, and it wasn't not scary a lot.
Why did you come out?
We're very fortunate.
Did you come out? Let's go to that.
Yeah.
Did you know what you were coming out here to do? Had you started it back there?
Yeah. So we were in North Carolina when we started YouTube in 2006. Did have a short-lived TV show on the CW in 2007 that we hosted that we came out here to shoot, but was we didn't want to move. And then in 2011, But
wait, before you go, how did you hook up? How did it start that you get to the CW? I mean, were you guys a thing? Or?
Yeah. So we had
those comedy comedy show that we were talking about where we were talking to college students.
We were making videos and songs and stuff for that, and none of it was religious. We didn't sing about Jesus or anything. It was just like clean comedy that we would use as we talked about other things, right? And so we had all these videos. And then we were trying to get people to watch them. We have created a website, rhettandlink.com, and we were like, YouTube comes along. People are like, why don't you have a YouTube? We're like, because we have a website. We didn't understand social media.
Right.
But people started taking those videos, downloading them from our website, and uploading them to YouTube where they got a lot of views. So we started doing that intentionally. Started getting some traction. And then in 2007, they were putting together this clip show called Online Nation.
They were trying to figure out, well, surely with all these internet videos, there's got to be a way to make this into a television show that it can actually be something. Right.
So we had some of our videos chosen for the show, but then they were like, well, why don't you guys submit a hosting reel at the same time? So we did that and got asked to be the hosts.
Wow.
So that was our first Hollywood experience. It was a horrible show. 8 episodes, only 4 made it to air. But we thought, I mean, we like when we invited our family and friends together to watch the first episode on the CW.
Oh my
I
God,
was
that
like-
must have been huge.
I was like, this is it. We had
We had a cake with our faces on it.
Did you both love the entertainment business? I mean, was this like your natural comedians off each
Yeah, yeah,
other
yeah.
as you're growing up?
Yeah.
And then,
We were
and
so
then you had the
excited.
dream of like, maybe we'll be on TV one day. Was that kind of in there?
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah,
Your degrees are in engineering, just to
our
be clear.
degree is in engineering. Yes, we did not know that you could get a degree in entertainment.
Right.
Right. It just
Ah, wow.
like-
right.
I mean, there was at some point talk of maybe going and majoring in film or whatever. My dad was like, I'd rather pay for an engineering degree.
Not funding that.
We just didn't know the
Yeah,
path.
exactly.
I see.
So then in 08, 09, 10, we were making these local commercials, featuring real businesses. And a bunch of them they were kind of making fun of local commercials. They weren't really big. IFC picked up a show that was following us around as we made our commercials. And we had to move out here to make the first season of that show. And so we told our families that it was a 6-month trial, but we all knew that we weren't coming back to North Carolina.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was 2011.
So that was 2011.
And when they didn't reorder the show,
You guys were really scared.
we were really scared. We were like, we are not going back.
Right.
And that's when we started Good Mythical Morning. We set up a card table in Rhett's converted garage in Sherman Oaks. We sat down behind the card table, couldn't fit, so you throw a leg on either side of it. And then we would just, we would film like a 10, 13-minute, basically uncut episode. We have one guy who was editing it for us. We have one employee at that time.
So what are you filming it on? Like, what's your a video camera?
Just whatever, whatever the
whatever was there.
whatever the Panasonic.
Right. The thing from
Yeah, yeah.
Best Buy.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's when Good Mythical Morning, it had a slow start, and then it really started taking off after a couple of years. It was basically, it was daily. It was Monday through Friday since the
Because
beginning.
they saw that working. Like people were making
But-
daily content.
And what
getting
was
a lot of
the-
traction.
like, what was the
Is this an idea you had for
yeah,
a
like,
while? Or?
what was the idea? Like, let's do a show and do weird shit. I mean,
No, it was
just
based on the
talking.
fact that so we saw people doing family vlogging, daily family vlogging, and it was really catching in like 09, 10, and people were getting hundreds of thousands of views on just like filming their family for a day. And we were like, well, I don't want to film my family. I don't want to bring my family into this.
Right.
But I was like, well, what can we do? Well, we can talk to each other and make it pretty entertaining. And so let's just, whatever we're talking about, whatever we would be talking about on the way to work together in the morning, let's just not have that conversation and just film ourselves having it.
oh, like podcasting.
So it's essentially a podcast,
Yes.
Right.
but short.
Right.
And then we started to learn what worked. And we slowly started to format Good Mythical Morning, and we started to have opportunities.
Where'd the name come from?
Well, our fans called themselves Mythical Beasts for a few years by this point.
Because when we were held in from recess for writing those nasty words on our desk in first grade, we colored pictures of mythical beasts.
Wow.
Like Paul Bunyan.
So that was our origin story.
So
they-
mythical has always been, that's why it's mythical entertainment.
Right, right.
Oh.
So yeah, that was it. It was, so we just,
Well, we wanted it to be we said, if we upload it in the morning, it'll be like a morning show.
Right.
And it'll give people this sense of routine.
Right.
We were really just guessing at the point.
Right,
at that
right.
point, like just not really understanding. We're like,
Not a lot of metrics to go
Yeah.
by.
yeah.
And so it's like, okay, mythical, good morning, mythical, good mythical morning.
Right. Does anybody have, like, at this point, you're not making money from this yet, right? So does
Right.
anybody have to go get, like, a job?
We were piecing things together.
Yeah.
Like the way we were making money at the time is we would do a sponsored video, like a music video, mostly music videos. A lot of our music videos back in the day had like one brand attached to it,
Ah,
where you might get like 20, 30, 40 grand or whatever to like do one of those.
wow, that was smart.
And so we would just do as many of those as we could. And then there was no money in just uploading to YouTube at the time. You couldn't just get money for there was no ads being run that you
Right.
could get money for it. So we started if you go back and watch the first episode of Good Mythical Morning, you'll see that we're like, this episode is brought to you by Aura Brush, which is like a tongue brush, because we knew those guys who ran that company. And we charged them $300 to sponsor the first episode of GMM, because we were like, let's just make sure we have a sponsor so that we can set the expectation that we will do this.
Smart.
And so we were selling very, very cheap ad placement right from the beginning.
And, you know, this whole world of like all the podcasting ads that everybody is familiar with it.
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't exist then because there weren't enough people doing it for like those type of business people to build, to glom onto it, to build, to build a scale to like
industry just
start to bring in the. So we had to negotiate all that ourselves. And Good Mythical Morning was just more of a. So that we got bigger paychecks from like the one-off videos that were custom integrations, and then we would try to get what ultimately became podcast reads. We were trying to get that for Good Mythical Morning, but we were just too ahead of it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what we talked about Good Mythical Morning like it was gonna be important for you. And you know, we talked about that in episode 1 for the viewer, and that worked eventually.
Kind of like a fun way to start your day.
Yeah, that worked.
Right? Like this is a great way to start your day, and we're not going to listen to like the tragic news. Or
Right. It took a couple of years for us to start like taste testing foods and wearing blindfolds and stuff like that.
Oh, man.
Everything evolved.
And then it would just, everybody wants to see us eat stuff. It's like, okay, let's do that again and again and again.
That was wild. We watched all those episodes and wondered like, who's getting sick after the show?
Right.
This is wild.
We would not get sick.
No?
No, we would get stuffed, but we wouldn't get sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to go, all right. So and I knew some of that, but not in that detail. But so now you're out here, and how old are your kids?
My youngest was 1 when we moved.
And my youngest was 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's a freshman and sophomore in high school now.
Wow.
So like that, their lives have been this era. The LA era of us is their entire lives.
Their entire lives. That's wild.
You know.
And how can I ask? How has your experience as friends, but also as your journey, be it emotional, spiritual, whatever, has that influenced how you raise your kids?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to because you both have. It seems like you both have strong relationships with your families, and so there was never. I never got a sense that there was any kind of divide as a result of choices made, and not that it was easy, but and so how is that sort of trickled down into what you do with your kids?
I think when Rhett describes, that reflection in the past where he was like, I'm so fortunate to be so right. I think has had such a impact on our parenting that you want to swing the other direction. Like I'm very happy with the level of humility and openness that our kids have. So not really experiencing this external judgment and rigidity of, are you in, are you out? Are you right? Are you wrong?
Are you good or are you bad?
Are you good or you bad?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe to a fault, if you look at like the pendulum swing, but to say, hey, don't overcommit to something. You're young. Like,
right.
Just, I mean, there was a point there when I was on the tail end of coming out of the evangelical faith that the thing that I would say to the older kids who were old enough to talk about it with, I would just say a lot about, just don't believe everything people tell you. You know, there was all these like cautionary tales of like, just make sure you don't jump in and put all your, just follow one person. And now I'm not talking about Jesus. I'm talking about people.
Right.
And
right,
so
right.
I would explain that there's people who can present things in a way that is extremely powerful and alluring. And you've got just
And
slow
peer
your roll
pressure.
on that.
Yeah.
You know, because it met so much of my needs at that age. So for us, I'm so glad that like for all of us, I think we've created this environment for our kids to grow up in where it's that pressure is not there, but the security is still there.
Right.
And so it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty loosey goosey.
Right.
I mean,
So I would say that it's parenthood is not easy in any circumstance.
Right.
Some kids are easier than others, I'm sure, but you guys know that parenthood is not easy. I think that parenthood through the lens of a very specific religious faith is much simpler
Right.
if your kids adhere to the thing that you're teaching them, which is what I did for my parents growing up, right?
Right.
I was a great rule follower. And so I made it pretty damn easy for them because it was like, here's the manual, here are the rules, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is the ultimate why behind all that. And if you just fall in line, this will be pretty damn easy. But when you say, well, okay, I don't believe that anymore, I don't believe there is a manual, I guess loosely I would say that we do what I might call evidence-based parenting, right? Like I'm trying to make the best decision according to what the evidence is. But that's also very hard to pin down. It depends on the latest study. And
Right.
well, this is good and this is bad or whatever. And so what it ends up doing is I think it shifts the onus from a book or a pastor or a community onto a parent to have a lot more conversations with your kids.
Absolutely.
Now you've got to actually, like, I can't just say because I said so. Like, we actually have to explore the consequences.
Right.
Well, what I know about raising more than one
Yeah.
is that one size does not fit all.
that's right.
You know, they're
Yeah.
all different. So the thing that you're, which was startling to me, I thought they'd all just, come out and be kind of the same. And but each one has their own set of what, they just have their own thing. So I totally agree with that. And it requires more conversations. It requires knowing that you're going to make mistakes, which I think when you're sort of following a rule book, you're not supposed to make mistakes, right? That's kind of nice. But as a parent, what I've learned and what I find my kids really understand is that we all make mistakes and that, we own up for our part in the mistakes, but we are not perfect. And I think that is, a great life lesson because they're going to get out there and,
she came with two, right? The two were part of the package, and I raised Sarah and Jackson since they were 4 and 6, and then we decided to have another go. And it's
they're all different.
They're all different, and what I've realized is my greatest asset in raising my kid is basically saying, I don't know. Or oh wow, I fucked that up. I'm so sorry. I can't believe that was wrong. So that there's a sense of, that there's whether conscious or unconscious, they realize that there's space to figure out who they are.
Right, and there's an honesty. It's like if you, we would always tell our kids, look, if you're in a funky situation, you call us, you won't get in trouble.
Right.
Do not, don't get in the car just because, you don't want mom and dad to know somebody was drunk or drinking, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And that honesty has allowed, whereas I would imagine growing up in a fear-based kind of way, you have to keep a lot of secrets from your parents, I would think.
Yeah. And I think that is not only, the community that we come from, but it's generational too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
so I
absolutely.
think that a lot of it now is, Jesse and I say this to each other all the time after we've had spent like an evening having a conversation where you're trying to, like, you do have an idea of what is best for your kid, but you realize that you just can't point them at it or just tell them. That's not how it works. You have to reason with them. You have to create incentives. And sometimes I'll get through, talking to one of my kids, and I'll be like, wow, it's actually much easier to be a boss than it is to be a parent.
Yeah.
As hard as it can be to be a boss sometimes,
Yeah.
or to solve a creative problem sometimes. It's like parenthood, sometimes it's just, I got nothing.
Well, especially when they
I've tried
can
it all.
talk.
Nothing worked.
Right.
Nothing worked.
When they start talking and they have opinions, and you're like, wait a minute, Yeah, our youngest one is really at that age right now where she definitely knows better. She knows best.
We're
And we're
we're doing some work outside in construction. We have the little sauna and bathroom. And last night at the dinner, just arbitrarily out of nowhere, so is that the wallpaper you're going to use in that? Both of us look at each other like, yeah, we both like it. Oh, okay.
Oh no. And this was after we were sitting at the table. They're all going to come. I'm about to start my work in Cape Town, and all of them, Kurt and Esme, are going to come to
Right.
to visit, and we're going to do a little safari. So last night I said, so here's the plan. Like, this is what our days are going to be like. Well, don't I have a say in that?
Right.
So she said, I'm like, what? And we both looked at each other like, we are taking you
On a
on a safari.
Yeah.
You want
Listen,
to tell us what the plan is?
opinions
Yeah.
about trips
Yeah.
is something that whenever I find myself in one of these discussions, I'm like, I couldn't imagine having an
Could you
opinion
imagine? Yeah.
for my dad. I'd be like, Dad, no, I don't think we should be staying at the Oak Grove Motel in Emerald Isle and sharing a room with you and Mom. I don't think this is the best
Really,
stuff.
Dad, we're going to take Route 9 down to the. Really? Don't you think we should take the park? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure would be great when they make it 4 lanes.
That's exactly right. There you go. Good call.
Oh man, that's so funny.
I think where are we, Katey?
Are we pieing?
Are we in pie? This
yeah.
is our really fun segment that we ask people to choose something that's their favorite pie. And if you do have a reason why it's your favorite pie or a story about why it's your favorite pie, this is when, Katey's going to bring them in. Who wants to start with their story?
Well,
Yours is the peanut butter one?
I come from a long line of peanut farmers.
Oh,
No.
Jimmy Carter?
When I was peanut butter. I mean, on the show we
Yes.
call ourselves the Peanut Butter Boys because whenever we eat something that's peanut butter related,
God.
we just flip out over it. So we both love peanut butter.
That's amazing.
it's a great pie.
But oh yeah, this looks so good.
You might have a bite here, bud.
Oh man,
As a kid, I was
I'm a big peanut butter boy.
like the Nesquik powder in a glass full of milk, stir it up, make your chocolate milk, then take that spoon, dip it into the peanut butter, put that down in there,
Right.
sit down, watch reruns of Johnny Carson at my Nana and Papa's house. I'm very routine oriented when it comes to my jams, the things that I like.
right.
And peanut butter, I think, just always brings me back to that, like,
It is
safe place, like that.
It is my go-to comfort food.
The latchkey kind of kid
Yep.
in me, where I would like go to my Nana's house and eat the Peter Pan. Like,
Wow.
it tastes so good to me because it feels so good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, Earl
It's very
Grey,
American.
Earl Grey is a little bit of a left field thing, and this is more recent. I'm trying to remember the first time. Was it Pie Hole?
I think so. Yeah.
You guys went to someplace. I
We
remember.
did a Willet
Downtown.
Pie Hole.
Yeah, I remember.
Which
I've
is
been to that place.
So
That is very.
before,
Oh, man, that's pretty
it's just a kind of a really unexpected. I just tried it at one point. I wasn't even that big of a fan of Earl Grey tea, but this Earl Grey pie just ended up being surprisingly incredible.
I think you're always looking for the next thing.
It's almost
At Pie
refreshing.
Hole?
That's what this means to me about him was yeah, but what about the next thing?
Yeah. I know what peanut butter tastes like, and I
Right,
know
so-
that I like it.
Right. What
So-
Right.
Is he the more curious one? When you say that, like you just said, you're routine oriented, which is a lot like Kurt. He will watch, Antique Roadshow and eat his lunch
Yeah.
every day, if that.
I get the same thing at Blue Bottle every morning.
The same thing.
You know.
And so your routine, are you the more like, let's try something different?
I have been traditionally, especially when like food, entertainment, hobbies, whatever, like I haven't, it's only recent that I've gotten to a place where I've thought to myself, like, even if we were going to like watch a movie, like if Jesse and I are going to watch a movie, in the past couple of years, I've been like, how about we just watch a movie that we know we like? It was like a revelation for me.
Right.
What
I
you've
know
already
people,
seen.
right. I know people who do that.
I do too.
I know people who have their comfort movies who are like, when I'm on a plane, I watch this movie or whatever. And I was always like, there's so much to watch. There's so much to experience. But even with restaurants, Jesse and I are like, oh, we like this restaurant. We can go back to this restaurant. Or
We can.
because we've been like, oh, we're in LA. There's always a new place to try. But the unknown has always been pretty enticing. But I think something about getting older, I'm just like, but if you know you can have a good time.
Right.
If you know that you're going to laugh at this movie in the way that you want to laugh.
Right.
Well, isn't that because you've been disappointed so many times? By the new things you've tried.
Yeah,
That
I do think
restaurant
that's part of
sucked.
it.
I don't want to see this movie.
I have a ritual where I either the first either New Year's Day or the first couple of days within a new year, I will always watch the first two Godfathers,
Mm-hmm.
and every time so far they hold up.
Yeah.
And
That's what I hear.
But there's like a comfort, like when I'm doing that, and I won't watch it any other, like, you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
interesting.
yeah. And it's just, but as much as I want to go, what's new, there are certain things that do feel, I don't know,
And you get something
safe.
out of it
Yeah.
still. I
Does
mean,
that make it your favorite movie?
It's definitely up there. And
fascinated with that sort of mob mentality.
well, it's
Yeah.
the family stuff, but it's also, but there's something especially too. There's something perfect about the structure, and sometimes I watch it. I look for things that are wrong, and
Can't find it.
I can't find it. But no, in terms of watching things, like I will watch reruns of Family Guy to fall asleep. If I can't sleep,
Loves family.
I'll just, and I've seen them. It's like what I used to do with a kid watching. I'm dating myself, but I would watch old episodes of The Odd Couple or The Honeymooners.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen them of all the Honeymooners. They made like 12 episodes, so you're watching the same one 1,000 times.
Uh-huh.
But but there's a routine and a ritual that feels safe, and
We all just want to be safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel
We all
that.
just want to be comfortable.
Well, and I think part of it is, I think some of it happens as you get older with finding your voice too, from a creative perspective. Is that, which the cool thing is that you can still be finding your voice at any stage in your career,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
yeah, you have to.
So I think that, I don't know. I feel like we're getting to a place where we're settling in. You start figuring out what you're good at, what you don't need to keep trying to do, and what you need to lean into.
Such a relief.
And I think that has been happening at the same time as my not so worried about having to see the latest thing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yes, you finally realize, oh, I'm not going to be a rock star. That would have been mine.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I think you are, but it's a different time for Rockstar.
This is also the time where you get to, we talk about people, they have something they want to hype, something they're
Promote.
working,
Oh.
something to promote.
Yes.
Well, the thing that I was talking to Rhett before we came over here, and the thing that we wanted to take a second to talk about was our experience in getting to know you guys, and like when you talk about finding your voice, and it was that we met in an interesting time right before the pandemic. And we
Right.
go into the pandemic, and then like we met, and then very quickly Katey, we met you too. And then you were so interested in what we wanted to do creatively and how we, so we started talking about how we wanted to expand and like our ambitions for making things beyond YouTube. And then your response to that was, let's do something together. And, I don't want to speak for Rhett, but I think that it was it was a very rewarding experience at a very strange time through the pandemic in writing, in conceptualizing a show and writing a pilot with you. I mean, what would...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just the whole idea of like, where do our two worlds meet?
Right.
It's a fascinating process. And then the being able to like throw stuff out there and see the way that your experience and your instincts analyzed it. And it was a really important step for us.
Oh, wow. I still love that script.
Oh,
it's wacky as fuck, but it's
so wild.
But you guys did all the writing. It was so much fun for me as just producing it, going, you should do this.
And I think,
and the way you gave notes was a trip.
What did I do? Did I record them?
Just voice memo. Because Rhett's much more the writer than me. So it was like, I was a little bit spectating and just kind of cheering you guys on.
Right.
And I got a real thrill out of the fact that he was so into it. Writing is a big passion of his. And to be able to get notes from you, and then he would be like, he would just play the voice memo for me. And
I love it, man.
It was very...
I'm sure I still got them.
Very cool. Very amusing.
Well, and I think that
was meandering, but
we went stream of consciousness, and I'd be like,
stream of consciousness.
Sorry. That's what I like for me. I'm sorry. That's a very long note.
But I think that so I mean, as a segue into what we're excited about right now, I do think that, the continuation of us figuring out what it is that we want to do, and we've got this, we're doing things in this medium where there's a certain thing that's rewarded in the YouTube ecosystem.
Right,
and it's not always the best story. It's not always telling a story in the way that we want to tell it, but we're kind of pushing the limits there and trying to say, is there a way to meet the demands of the algorithm, but also to be able to express ourselves creatively in the way that we want to do? And so we've been doing that with Wonderhole. Thank you for being a part of the biggest episode of season 1.
Wow. Wow, I love that.
And
you have to tell them where they can find that.
Yeah, so you can just search Rhett and Link's Wonderhole on YouTube.
Right.
And so season 1 is out, those 6 episodes.
Your episode is called...
we spent 24 hours locked in red and blue rooms.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And
I did the voiceover.
yes.
That's the...
You were not nice to us.
I was not nice to them.
Not at all.
No.
And we had, we're kind of pushing the limits of what you can do with a YouTube video. But I think that we're already working on season 2 right now and leaning even more into story. So a lot of season 1 was about like, can you bring people into this thinking they're watching one video and then give them something else?
Right.
We're still going to do that, but we want to lean even more into storytelling.
Right.
So,
and it's challenging for you guys too, because you love what you do and you've created this community and this following with what you do, and you have to acknowledge that and honor that and give that, but also how do you
Grow.
take that and grow without dismissing the weight and the importance of that.
and I think that the biggest realization for us in the past couple of years has been, like we talked about earlier, the realizing that the thing that people they're compelled by and intrigued by is the unique nature of our friendship, the
Yes.
length of it, but the nature of it. And so when we realized that we could continue to use our friendship as the centerpiece of our storytelling, and so every episode of Wonderhole is really kind of showing you a facet of our friendship. Maybe it's about something that didn't even happen,
Right.
but it's still through the lens of our friendship. So I think those people who are in it for that are kind of coming along for the storytelling.
Right.
So it's a good bridge.
Great.
Right. It's and it's really cool just to bookend it in that your entree into all this was like, well, no one wants to hear about our friendship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's do the wacky. This is what they want to see. They don't want to,
Right.
And that ultimately that is the
Here we
The
are.
hook.
yeah. That's
the thing.
That was
Yeah.
the power of it. Well, I adore you guys. I think, and I'm, it's still, I watch.
We adore Katey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we,
You're supposed to say, I do too.
I do too. But she knows that. No, but it just and again, we end up doing is we do pizza night on Fridays, and
You guys are there.
yeah, you guys are there. We'll catch up, and we'll be like, no, we saw that, we didn't see that, and we'll go through and
For years.
and yeah,
Sound like
it really is. It's
you were at our pizza night.
it's a bonding thing with,
Yeah,
with
it
SB
is.
and I. It really is, and I'll never forget when we had dinner the first time. Is we had her on FaceTime and she like pitched you guys an episode
Yes.
of Will
Will
It.
it?
And it was actually pretty good.
I was like,
You guys
there you
ended
go.
up doing it.
Right.
And I was like, I swear to God, I had nothing to do with it. And but she's obviously she's in school. She's bummed that she's gonna miss you
Missing you
guys.
guys.
But no, I'm still and congratulations with the new show and I'm a fan. I'll be
Yeah,
watching.
we're fans.
And also very much enjoying getting to know you both of you and your lovely spouses and your fabulous.
You have
looks.
good wives.
Yeah.
We do.
Aren't
Oh,
they?
Both
Are
do.
they better?
You have really good wives.
Yeah.
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 We all kind of married up.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've met the kids. Have I? Did I meet?
I don't think you've
I don't
met-
think it-
I don't think I've met any kids,
No.
but
Is
you
your
have good
boy as tall
wives.
as you now?
No.
No.
He's not.
Oh, the Jesse short jeans mix pretty well. So you've got just average height.
Oh, okay. All right.
Wow.
Because the last time I think it's been a minute since I've seen him, and I thought, I wonder how he's
How
gonna.
tall they're going.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
There we go.
Here we go.
We're dancing out.
It's Jackson White. It's my son. Okay. We're ending.